Hey, everybody, I'm Elysia Buss, host of Horsepower Empowerment Through Connection. And today we have the one and only Nikki Porter coming to us straight from Canada in
Yeah.
Nova Scotia, in Amherst, Nova Scotia. I'm super excited to get to be interviewing Nikki today for so many reasons, but one of which is she's our second Canadian. Our other Canadian was from the other side of Canada, which, it's pretty far. I'm thinking like probably like 3 or 4,000 miles, depending on what the points are of these two of the water,
So
I
beautiful.
imagine.
Yeah. We are surrounded by water. And my husband and I, we always joke because we're on the road with clinics. And we say every clinic that we go to, we get brought to water. So we get brought to, or like taken to like the most beautiful places. We always end up eating right on the water after the clinic. It's pretty amazing. So we're always surrounded by really amazing scenery here. Yeah, for sure.
That's fantastic. And so you're an equestrian mindset coach, which
Yeah.
is really cool to me. And but you do a lot of just like regular training of horses, right?
Yeah. So people often ask, I'll do a little backstory.
Yeah, give us the backstory. What have you got?
So I used to be a high school English and drama teacher. And then I left teaching in 2017. And I often have people say to me, oh my gosh, did you quit like riding, or did you quit teaching to train horses? I'm like, no, I absolutely didn't quit teaching to train horses. I quit teaching. I don't even like to use the word. I resigned from teaching to be able just to teach a new curriculum to a very specific audience. Do we train horses? Yes, we do. But that is just like, that's almost supplemental at this point. So I do that with my husband. I love that we get to work together. We complement each other, and it works really well. So we don't train a lot of horses. We do a lot of clinics. We are on the road. There's one year we did 22 clinics in one summer.
That is a lot of clinics. What are the clinics on typically?
So our clinics they started out as just trail, like obstacle clinics. And now we have all of the same stuff, but we walk in and say, this has nothing to do with the obstacles. So sometimes I call them like a conscious communication or conscious horsemanship clinic, but
Cool.
then we typically just shorten it to trail and horsemanship. So we'll do groundwork, and then we translate the groundwork into obstacle work. And essentially we just show people where their breakdowns are in their communication in order to have their horses try for them to see their horses try, for them to gain confidence, their horse to gain confidence. So it really comes down to teaching people communication with their horses. And then I do like how that translates to communication with people.
Lovely. So it's just better partnership, just all the way around.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like just respecting where their horse is coming from and listening to them. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Setting boundaries. Boundaries is probably one of the biggest lessons that horses teach people. People who have a hard time setting boundaries with their horse typically have a hard time setting boundaries in their life with everyone else, whether it be work or family or friends. And those sort of connections get made on a very regular basis.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Can you give us a couple of examples of profound stories that you've experienced with people and their horses?
Yeah, there's a few. So really I guess if I like just generalize it. So my husband and I, this year more than any other year, we have been just trying to get people to understand and appreciate their horse more than anything else. We're like, oh my God, they're so brilliant and they do so much for us. And you get a lot of people who attach stories to their horses. So my horse just does this because, or my horse is this. So they'll set these labels on their horse.
Sure.
My horse is scared of this. My horse is scared of that. I can't do this with them. I can't do that with them. So what we want to do is have them see their horse not for who they keep telling themselves that they are, but who the horse actually is once they break the communication down and become more present with them. versus responding to them based on what they assume is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So really, I guess the most profound thing would be when someone comes in and they're actually like pretty scared. So we have a fair amount of people who come to our clinics. So we do a talk at the very beginning, and it's like, it's supposed to be a half an hour. On the schedule, it's a half an hour. It's never, ever a half an hour. So we talk for a long time and we try to keep it short, but it ends up being probably an hour, just over an hour sometimes, because we go and we tell these stories about the experiences that other people have had with the clinics. But we had one clinic where we had 4 women come in and they're sitting on the couch and we're having this conversation, and we have everybody introduce themselves and introduce, like, who are you bringing with you and why are you here? And 4 of them out of like 12 people said, well, I've been very, very hurt by my horse, and I have a hard time working with through that fear. So I've now, I've lost my confidence. I don't trust them. And they desperately want that relationship to change. They want to find that trust and connection with their horse again that they feel like they had in the past. So with this being said, then we have a weekend for them just to spend like ridiculous amount of hours with their horse. So the clinic is, it's 2 days long, but people spend more time on the ground and just being with their horse and asking their horse and watching their horse think and allowing their horse to respond to them and working on respecting boundaries and all of those sort of things. And they just see their horse in a new light. And then we have, like, my husband works a lot on, let's say somebody who's really nervous, they swing their leg over and now they're going and they're like doing obstacles. So they're not just swinging a leg over, they're also doing something that typically, even if they hadn't been scared before, that would scare them now. Right. So like we work on make sure the horse is really good, but then my husband often talks to them about their horse. So, okay, add a little pressure here, add a little pressure there. And I'm on the ground and saying, okay, now you need to breathe. And I talked through people about like doing a physical check. So as soon as you
body
swing
scan.
a leg over, right. So do your body scan as soon as that you swing a leg over and start feeling, where do I hold tension in my body when I get on? And then, so I know that if I'm holding tension, I get a pain right down my back on both sides, just like my mid back. Typically it happens when I'm trotting. So when I feel that gives me an opportunity to then go back, do that body scan and release those points of tension and then be able to move. So I work a lot on the person and allowing them to feel safe in the space and allowing them to trust their horse. And then my husband works with the horse while they're on. And we work equally with the horses when we're on the ground, but that's typically how we get them through it.
That's a really cool combination. I don't know that I've heard of people like working in tandem like that before. I'm sure they're out there. I haven't talked to everybody.
To be honest, I don't know if I've seen it really. So we've worked with Jim and Andrea Anderson before. They're from out west, phenomenal horseman and woman, and they came and did a clinic together, but they still split themselves apart. Whereas there's lots of situations that the two of us go together because he works so concentrated on the animal and I really focus on the energy of the people and trying to build them up and allowing them to understand their communication from a little bit more of a holistic approach, if that makes sense. So yeah. How does this translate to what's showing up in different areas of your life?
No, that's great. Yeah. How many people would you say that you see a week at your place?
Well, we actually travel. So we have a facility that people can come here. We have a mountain trail course on our property, and I do mountain trail lessons during the week. I get maybe like half a dozen people because we load up our stock trailer with all of our obstacles and we hit the road and we take them to places. So we work with anywhere between 12 and 14 riders a weekend. And this is year 6. No, this is year 5 for this, 6 for hosting shows. Yeah. So we're trying to slow down a little bit. We're trying to work smarter, not harder, because we have a 6-year-old daughter. So we want to be home, but the clinics are they're hard not to do. We really,
they sound really powerful.
Yeah. We really enjoy hitting the road and doing that. So we're trying to make sure that we balance our schedule a little bit better now. Yeah.
Yeah, props for that. Like balancing any person's schedule, I feel like it can be a bit difficult.
Yeah.
So does your daughter ride, I imagine?
No.
What?
I know. So yeah, so we're like,
sounds like an interesting story.
It's one of those things that, like, the very first thing that I bought for her was horsey related. Before I even knew I was having a girl, I was buying things that were horsey, and you just automatically, like, my husband, when I met him, he rode 365 days a year. Like, he rode every single day. He's very invested. He's a horseman.
Yeah.
And I came from a very competitive background. So I actually, like, when I probably left high school, went into university, I started to pull back from horses a little bit. So I was seeing if I could live a life without being as involved with horses. And I soon discovered that that's not really possible. So it's in you. So two people who our lives are centered around horses, you would think we would produce a child who likes horses. And it didn't happen. So everyone she knows up until she went to school owns or rides a horse. And she will say to me, "Mommy, I want you to know that I don't want to do what you do." And I'm like, okay, that's no problem. Now, that being said, we've never, ever, ever forced her to be in the barn. So we would arrange childcare for her if she didn't want to come to the barn with us, because we would spend so many hours there. We didn't want to sicken her of it. And I'm not sure what happened. I don't know if that is what stopped her from actually wanting to be there, or if she didn't want to be there, so it's not really where she should be. So we're allowing her to just make her own choice here. So, during COVID, actually, it was interesting. She decided she wanted to ride because she couldn't leave. So she hopped on. My sister taught her a bit, and she did a few lessons, and she's actually really good. Like, she's natural. But she then was like, okay, I'm done. No, I want to dance. She loves to do aerial. So aerial hoop with the silks, the hoop, and the pole. She loves it. And so she goes to class for that, and she likes to swim. She just asked today if she can learn how to do piano. So, like, she does lots of things, but I don't think horses are going to be her jam.
Fascinating. I mean, it's really great that you guys honor that, and it doesn't have to be a problem. And
yeah,
it's a beautiful thing. Like, well done, parents.
Thank you.
So speaking of that, like, what about, so what models have informed the work that you do as a mindset coach?
Oh gosh. Well, I think my horses have really set the stage more than anything else. I feel like I've created my own model based on what they've taught me, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
If you don't mind, I'm going to talk about my book for a second, just because.
Yes, talk about your book. I love it.
The reason why is because.
Is that it in the background?
This is it. Yeah. So when I think about, this is a hardcover too, so it's the prettiest one.
It is the prettiest one.
Yeah. So it's called The Conscious Communicator, The Pursuit of Joy and Human Connection Inspired by the Art of Horsemanship.
Well done, my friend.
Thank you. So the reason why I say that, like, I really don't follow a specific model for coaching or mindset, because the horses bring it all out. The horses bring out the areas that we struggle. And even when I'm doing coaching, so I've done a little bit of corporate coaching, and when I'm working with those people who are completely disconnected, they're in the city, they have nothing to do with horses, I will still tie it back in to what the horses have taught, and how I've learned what I've learned. So this book in particular, it's actually using horsemanship to assess all of our other relationships. So it allows us to see the concepts that allow people to be successful with horses and how we can translate that into our communication with other people. Now, that being said, I'm actually writing a new book, which flips that book completely on its head. So it's more in line with the podcast where I use personal growth. I talk specifically to horse people about personal growth. So it's, instead of using horses to improve our relationships, it's using personal growth to improve our horsemanship. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I did. I mean, like, there are like 150 models out there,
Yeah.
but obviously people like can create their own model. That's why we have so many of them.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make one better or worse than another. It's just a different life experience that's like folded it all together. In regards to the personal growth, in influencing your horsemanship, that makes complete sense to me, since my focus is the emotional regulation. And obviously, if you're able to be more congruent within yourself, more authentic, and more aware of your own emotions and how you're emoting, then you're going to have a better relationship with your horse, because then you're giving less mixed signals to your horse because you're more present within your body and your mind. And so, yeah, that makes all the sense in the world.
So that's it. Like I'm going to get back to, I'm going to have so many things to say. I have to say it one at a time.
Google Translate.
I know, right? So in our clinics, we talk about the congruence. So like, horses are our ultimate teacher of congruence. So when things are going a little hairy and it looks like our horse is really disconnected, or they're concerned and you can't figure out what's going on, if there's changes in their behaviors, oftentimes it's because what we're showing on the outside, so we're like trying to fake it till we make it. We're like, I'm not scared, I'm perfectly fine. But on the inside, you're literally like shaking and you're going like, I really can't do this, I have to do this, but I really can't do this. And horses read that. They read our energy. It's their first language, and then our body language. And so when we think about congruence, and I think about the connection of intention, and we're working with those horses, when we get really clear on our intention, become really present, then our horses feel that and they understand that, versus when we're just sitting and we're worried and we're thinking, okay, well, inside I don't really want to do this, but outside I have to present this. And we're so scared. And I think this is what happens, is we're so scared. You hear, and I'm so guilty of this. My very first podcast episode is called Horses Are a Mirror to Your Soul, or something along those lines. And I think it was a conversation with Colton Woods that really had me start to reassess this. And yes, they are, in the sense that a lot of times what's showing up for us shows up with our horses, and what's showing up within our conversation with our horses had to do with what's going on with us personally. But I think what scares people is that they feel like people are saying, if you appear to be frightened, your horse is going to be frightened. But if you appear to be confident, but you feel frightened, your horse is going to not trust you. So when you can get authentic, like you said, and really feel into what you're feeling, and you might even, I've had people say, they say it out loud, say, okay, feeling a little nervous right now. And then you become aligned with how you feel on the inside. And then you start to change your intention, and you start to be able to talk your way through. Just 1 second, I have to decline that.
It's okay. I was just wondering where mine was. I was like, where is it? I need to turn it off.
I don't know who that was. So when we become aligned and we become congruent, then our horses we can take a breath with them.
Yeah.
And it allows us to communicate from a more clear space. They might still be scared, but we can actually work together now instead of them going, but I don't understand why you look this way and you feel this way. That's dangerous to them.
Yeah.
Right. So then the other part is, can I tell you a cool story?
Of course.
Okay. So
we love stories here.
Okay. So
we love HeartMath. Yes.
Okay, I'm assuming you love HeartMath just because you know the language. Okay. So I'm going to tell you how I found out about HeartMath. And this is one of those stories that makes me go, all right, like synchronicities and all of these sort of things. This is not a coincidence. Like I was where I was supposed to be when I was supposed to be there. So I decided that just literally a week before, I don't even know if it was a week before, I had a friend of mine who was going to Washington State to take a clinic. It was a judging clinic, a trail judging clinic at Bolander Farm.
I've been there.
Okay.
I've been to Bolander. It's a beautiful facility.
Okay. Beautiful. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go do this on a whim. I was not planning on doing it. So my husband was like, sure, no problem, go for it. So off I go, thinking I'm just going to the Bolanders to learn how to judge mountain trail, because now my husband and I have a mountain trail and whatever else. Okay. So I get there and there's this lovely woman from Australia who was supposed to leave the week before, and something happened and she ended up staying. And I don't even know if we were there for like an hour at this point. And we started chatting, and she was kind of like how I feel when I'm talking to you, where you're like, okay, like we're talking the same language. We feel like things connect a little bit and you feel really comfortable. So I'm talking to her. She's amazing. And she said, oh my gosh, there's something I have to show you before the end of the weekend. I was there for 2 days. Okay. Before the end of the weekend, I have to show you. Remind me. So we go through the weekend, we do the judging, and then our bags are packed and we're ready to go. Everybody has shut down. There's football on the TV. Like, we're now shut down. We are no longer learning about horses. And she looks at me and she's like, oh my gosh, I didn't tell you the thing. Like, do you mind can we take 5 minutes? Can I show you? I'm like, yeah, no problem. So she brings out HeartMath. So she brings out her little, and then this is, if anybody doesn't know what it is, I'm actually going to show it because it's super
I'm excited. We've talked about it, but no one's actually shown us the device yet.
It's not in the box because it's over here. Okay, so she brings out the device, which looks like this. I'll unplug the charging cord. So it looks like this, okay? And you attach that, and she hooks me up to her phone, which is Bluetooth, which is fine. So it hooks me up to her,
because the thing goes on your finger, you guys. It goes on your finger.
Yes, sorry. Or there's
or on the ear.
On your ear as well. I have the world's smallest ears, so it doesn't work as well on my ears, but that's okay.
Funny.
So there's different ways that you can kind of use it if you need to. Okay, so she attaches this to me and she starts saying, like, do you have a meditation practice? And I was like, well, yes, I do, because the room is incredibly loud at this point. And so I'm like, yeah, I do. And then she's looking at her app and I'm hooked up to this little device, and I'm having a hard time quieting my mind because of everything that's happening. And she starts asking me questions, and she starts saying, okay, if you need to feel at peace, or if you want to feel gratitude, who are you going to think about? So think about the person that makes you feel the most grateful. Who's the person that you feel like you love unconditionally, whatever. So it really starts sinking you into your heart, and you start feeling like those feelings of gratitude, those feelings of appreciation. And all of a sudden I'm not listening to Mark watching football, and I'm, centered and sinking into my heart. Okay. And as this is happening, I don't know what's happening on her end, because I don't even know what the device is at this point. And so then I stop and she says, okay, anyway, we look at it, and it showed how I was in an incongruent state and then moved into a more congruent state as I became more appreciative and thinking all these things. And it was like one of those moments where I said, this is the only reason I came here. This is why I was like, I think I've judged 2 shows since then. That was 3 years ago. So it's amazing. It has been probably, oh, I have another cool story that goes with it. I'm going to talk to you all day if you let me. So I'll have to.
I'm going to give you like 25 more minutes and then I have to run. Or whatever
Okay.
you want to give in that time. I would talk to you all day long. I'm like, I can call you later.
Okay. So the cool part about this is one of the things it opened me up to was our energy. And I knew about the energy, in the sense of like, I guess the law of attraction and the energy that I feed my horses, and how my energy impacts how my horses behave, and how my energy impacts how my child behaves or sleeps or doesn't sleep, and all of those sort of things. But what I didn't know was the energy field of our hearts, and I didn't understand the science behind all of that. And so this is one of the coolest parts. And I think I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again today. So I went home and I bought this. I'm like sitting down and doing the little, like, I think I got it. Yeah. So it's the Ad Heart Facilitator program so that I can actually use it and teach it. And it was the first night that I actually sat down and was learning the things. And then it was time for my daughter to go to bed. So we go to bed, and this might sound a little woo-woo, but it happened. And I'm glad there was somebody there to witness it. So I take her to bed, and she had above her bed, she had a set of Christmas lights that are battery operated that have been dead for months. Like, they have been set to the on position for, I don't even know how long at this point, and they have not worked in months. And so we lay down, and she says, "Mom, I love you." And it was like the first time that she said, "I love you," as a child, that you were like, oh my God, she knows what that actually means. Like, she's not just saying it because you say I love you when you leave, and you say I love you because you're my mom and I have no choice. It was a moment where she actually felt it, and she was compelled to say it. And I said it back, and the lights turned on.
That's awesome.
Like, it was insane. So that alone was one of those moments where I was like, okay, this is where we're meant to be. This is what I'm meant to be looking into, teaching, learning about. And I just want to know how I can make it translate into horses and people and life.
Yeah, I keep wanting them to make one that they can put on the horse's ears or something like that, so that we can have that being read. Do you know, have they made one yet?
Now, I don't know if it's been made specifically for horses, but I do know that they have done research with the horses, and I feel like they did actually work with a device on the horse. I don't know. Like,
I just thought it'd be cool to get to be reading
yeah,
the person and the horse at the same time.
right. Yeah. And I do think that, I think I was sent an article that had that, but I'd have to look it up. So yeah.
Science is fun.
It's so cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all of those different pieces. And do we know yet when your second book is coming out?
No. So
it's in process.
It's in the process. It's in the early stages of the process. And I'm working on it with someone else. So this was solo. My first book was solo. And it was one of those things where I just I just wrote. It took me 2 years, but the 2-year problem was not because it was hard to write. And I think that anyone who feels like they have something in them to write, that is like, the writing of it is the easy part, because it just flows out of you.
Yeah.
Right. And you feel like you have to write a book because you have that much to say on the topic. So that part's easy. The 2-year process was me getting over my own demons about being terrified of what people were going to say. So a lot of self-judgment, and then a lot of fear of what other people were going to say. Who am I to write a book? What do I even have to say? Why is my opinion valid on this topic? All those sort of things.
Sure.
So now I'm working with someone else, and I feel like this collaboration is going to be brilliant. I'm not going to say who it is yet. I will say he is fantastic. That is my husband. Sorry. He's fantastic, and he's very much aligned with what I teach. So I'm really, really excited about it. Yeah.
Well,
so
as soon as you have the link for it, you can give it to me, and then I'll send it out to the masses, and I'll make sure and have a link in the description for YouTube for your book that you already have. Great. And any upcoming clinics that you have that you get to share with all of us.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I want to go to one. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, we're very much, we're just within the Maritimes right now. We haven't traveled outside of our Atlantic bubble, which is okay. It's been fantastic. I don't know how we could travel further because we haul all of our stuff with us. But it's been amazing to get to all of these different barns and cruising. My husband is calling me again. Just give me, I don't think, oh, there's a horse having a little bit of a meltdown at the barn. That's all. I'll give them a call back in a minute. So
everything's all right.
Yeah. So it's been amazing. Part of my work is that I really enjoy working with people individually, and outside of the horses, because there's so much that we can learn about ourselves and about the way we communicate and about how we communicate with everyone that then translates to our horses. And there's so much work that we can do before we ever even touch our horse, and our horses, our relationship will be better for it. So that's what I'm the most passionate about. I absolutely love working with the horses. But I do believe that when people start focusing on themselves first, then the horses are on the better end of it. So they benefit that way for sure. So that's really, where I'm focusing my energy, I guess.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so you just discussed with us a little bit of the obstacles that you had in writing your book, like how you were feeling. What were some of what did you do that helped pull you out of that, those limiting beliefs?
Well, that's a good question. And I speak a lot about this one particular book a lot because she has helped shape my courage as a creator more than anyone else. And so I read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. And before I publish my next book, and before I launch another podcast, and before I do anything, I will read it again and again and again, because the encouragement that I receive from that book in particular is amazing. And it's not just because she's saying you're a creator, you're meant to do this. It's the idea around the energy of ideas, and it adds motivation behind what you're doing, because you get a sense of urgency that says, if I don't do this, if I don't share this, someone else is going to. And this is not for someone else to share right now. This is for me to share. And someone else is going to share the same thing, but it's not going to be the same. It's not going to reach the same people in the same way. Yeah. So that book has been absolutely instrumental in me saying, get out of my own head, do the things, make the brave action. The other part would be, or the other motivating factors would be Mel Robbins. She's been huge. The 5-second rule is actually what I use to leave my job. I would not have done it had I not read the 5-second rule.
What's the 5-second rule?
Okay, so super easy. It's literally, I don't know how someone could actually write a book. I do know because I read it, and it's like she goes into a lot of detail and the science behind it and her own personal story. But if I explain it to you, you're like, how on earth did someone just create a book on this one particular thing? So I'll explain. So 5-second rule is essentially you count down. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 2, 1. I apparently can't count with my fingers. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you take action from there. So rather than going, okay, I'm going to do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and getting up, or I'm going to do this 1, 2, 3, I'm getting up, because you're counting down, and she's looked at the science of counting down from 5 in particular. Because you're counting down, it actually like sets you off to go kind of like a rocket. So, you know what I mean? Like, so you get to 0 and you don't have an excuse from there. You can't go further than that. You just take action. So for me, it has helped me when I know I've made a very clear decision. I know that I am confident in my decision, but I'm worried about what people say, or it's just one of those situations where nervousness is actually the thing that's going to stop me from taking action. So just like getting a little sweaty and being like, oh God, I don't know if I can do that. The 5-second rule is the thing that gets me to just do it. Like, I know it in my heart. I know right now this is the right thing to do. So I just have to do it. So for my job, it was, I knew I needed to leave teaching, leave teaching in the general sense of like being a school teacher, because I still teach every day. But
I understand completely.
Right. So I needed to leave that particular job. And I remember I looked down the hall, and my vice principal, my principal were standing in the hallway, and there's like no kids. The bell had just rung. I was on a prep period, and I looked down and I was like, I think this is when I actually have to do it. And had I not counted down, I probably would have just like turned and went the other way. And instead I counted down, and that prompted me to take the first step towards them. And then I walked up to them, and then I just simply said, can I see you in the office? I just need to talk to you for a minute. And then I resigned. And then I thought I was going to throw up. Then I had to do a lot of self-talk. But it was, I was very, very much supported. My husband has been amazing supporting me through this journey. So it would have been a lot more difficult if it wasn't for his support. But at the same time, I knew that it was the right choice to make for me, for him, for our family. Yeah. For the kids I was teaching, really, to be honest.
Well, thank you so much for being so transparent, and brave. It's beautiful. What would you feel like are some of the obstacles that you've run across as you started the new business, right? Like going into your transitioning from teaching to your consciousness, like equestrian.
Well, all the self-doubt. I would say more than anything else. Like, the more I learn, the more I feel like I don't know. So then it's like, the more experience I gain, it doesn't make me necessarily go, I've got this. I have to really talk my way through that. With the horses, it's interesting because you're going to make me reflect on this. With my horses, when I'm working horses, I can go into a situation now and know, like, from my core, that I'm going to handle this situation correctly. Like, I feel it. Like, I can walk into it with that intention. Now, still in my business, I have that voice that says, like, who are you to do this? Or what if you can't? Like, what if you can't help this person through this? And so I have to do a lot of self-talk in order to be able to say, okay, no, you shouldn't probably cancel that coaching call. You should probably still do it, because there's a reason why that you're working with this particular person. So the biggest obstacle has been myself, for sure, and convincing myself that I know less than I do, or that the knowledge that I have is not worth what it is. Another obstacle is actually knowing my worth financially, knowing my worth. That's really hard. Charging for your services is really, really hard. Yeah, which I'm sure you know.
And I totally get it. Yep, for sure.
Yeah. So those are two things that definitely, those are really tough ones, but I think it really comes down to like meeting people like you who you can have these sort of conversations with, who understand. But then again, going back to like whether it's the 5-second rule or whatever, just finding that thing that allows you just to take that one tiny step at a time in the right direction, and then all of a sudden you're where you were doubting yourself you'd ever get to, and you're like, oh, okay. And then the doubt never actually leaves. You have to just keep on doing it.
Well, what is it that they say? Like, if you're not nervous, then it doesn't matter enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've been pretty nervous for the last 3 years. So I think,
You're doing a great job. That just means that you're doing an excellent job, and you just get to keep striving. And, I think for all of us, just working on having grace with where we are in the moment, because that's all that we can be is in that moment. There's nothing you can change. Like when you're like 100, like every, like second to second, like you are where you are in each moment of your day, and just having grace and acceptance with that, and just honoring and knowing. I think the best thing is that knowing that when you have the right mindset, even when you quote unquote fail, right? It's what you do with that experience that defines you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And
And
so it's like, are you
really
going to switch it?
knowing that you're only going to, everybody's doing the best that they can, but you're going to do the best that you can with what you have right now. And then when you know better, you will do better. And
exactly. It's like, are you just going to go into apathy because you made a mistake and just keep spinning in the same cycle and pattern? Or are you going to allow yourself to be humble and put your ego aside to see what happened and be like, do I need support so that that can change and shift? Or do I have the bandwidth within myself to analyze the situation and take better action in the future? And just holding yourself accountable without shame or invalidation. Like that's the trick for many people, is that they just oftentimes shut down, or they invalidate themselves and continue with that negative self-talk. And that's why coaching is so important, to be able to empower people and teach them that they can control their mindset, and how by changing your mindset, like you actually usually get closer to your authentic self, not farther away. It's just so beautiful.
that's the goal, right?
Yeah. We all get to strive for. And I think even if we do make mistakes periodically when we engage with our clients, then they get to see that we're human too. And it's a really beautiful, teachable moment that we show them how we manage that mistake, and holding ourselves accountable with kindness, and just turning it into gold.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Awesome.
Oh, my friend, before we wrap up, can you tell me some people that inspire you?
There's so many good ones.
Share them all.
I would have to say the very first person to set me on this path, and it's like I knew it as soon as I heard her voice. I have put her into, so I taught English and drama, and I feel like any single time I could play a video of hers in order to try to teach a lesson she was teaching, I did it. I was like, I'm going to make this work for the outcomes. I don't even care. And that would be Brene Brown. And like, everything that she speaks to resonates with me, in everything that I teach, whether it was in the high school or with the horses. And when I read Dare to Lead, the whole entire time I'm reading Dare to Lead, I'm like, every horse person needs to read this. It's so good. So she's, yes, you're talking about leadership, but that's what it all comes down to. And then Warwick Schiller, when I think about horse people who've inspired me that are on the same mission that I'm on. So they're looking at who we are as people and how that influences our horses, and then just showing a new appreciation for slowing down, and a little less of only, now I'm a reiner, so I believe in having our horses work, and I believe in that sportsmanship side of things where we get our horses to do the things, and they offer effort and all of those things, but at the same time being able to focus on the connection side of our work with our horses, and then what that teaches us about ourselves. So Warwick and Brene over the last, I'd say 3 years, have been the most instrumental. Dr. Joe Dispenza, his work is incredible. That's something that I've been diving into for the last couple of years that I'm like, I have to wrap my head around it more before I teach to it. It's so complex, but so simple at the same time. He's been my motivation. I've created, they're not released yet, but I've created meditation specifically for horse people. So
cool.
They're meditations that will get you in the right mindset, get you tuned into your body and your energy and your intention prior to going to the barn, while you're at the barn, while you're riding, while you're cooling down, whether you need to go to a competition, whether you need to just reintroduce yourself energetically to your horse, set a new intention with your horse. So that's the direction that I'm kind of going, and he's been a huge influence over that direction for sure.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow, those sound like some really powerful people, and I'll have to look more into Warwick Schiller. And
oh my gosh,
I've heard a lot about Brene Brown. I'm really hoping that someday I'll be able to have her on the show, because I hear about, wouldn't that be amazing? Definitely for the women's summit that I'll do after the men's summit, but we'll see what we can throw together. Cool. Well, Nikki, it has been a wonderful time getting to interview you and talk to you today. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. Sorry for my interruptions of my phone. I'm going to go and call and see what's going on.
That's life. It's totally okay.
But I really appreciate it. And thank you for all that you're doing and connecting everyone. And you're doing amazing things. And we'll talk soon.
Yes, we will. So everybody, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.